Now, this is a story from back in the old days when animals talked and talked to each other a whole lot. Back in those days, alligator had soft, smooth scales like lizard, and he and Rabbit were friends. Rabbit lived on the land and alligator lived mostly in the water, but they would talk at the water's edge. And Rabbit was telling Alligator about all the things that could go wrong in his life, and he mentioned, "Why, I've been having visits from so much trouble." And Alligator said, "Trouble? Who's trouble?" The Rabbit said, "You don't know what trouble is?" "No, we don't have something like that in the water. Must be something that's only on land." Rabbit said, "Oh, you got to learn about trouble just to be aware of what happens. Maybe you should come up on land and come up tomorrow afternoon. And you come up there in that dry grass over there, uphill from the river, and I'll show you about trouble." Well, Alligator thought that was a great idea. And he went home and told his wife, "Tomorrow I got to go up on land and learn about trouble." And his wife said, "Trouble? What's that? Who's that?" "Well, I don't know, but I'm going to learn about it tomorrow." "I'll come with you and bring the children too. We'll show them something new." "That's a great idea," said Alligator. Well, now Rabbit didn't know that Alligator was bringing his wife and his children along the next day, but he was going to teach Alligator a lesson about what trouble really was. And he waited, and he looked down the hill, and he saw Alligator coming up out of the water and going up into where that tall, dry grass was. And he went down the hill himself and started getting ready, not seeing that there were others coming up out of the water after Alligator. And so he went down, and he got his tobacco pipe and lit it so he'd have some nice hot ashes. And he went off into the dry grass, and he measured which way the wind was coming from. And when he got upwind of where Alligator was, he thought, "This'll teach him what trouble is, and he'll be able to get back to the water with no problem." So he tipped his pipe with its hot ashes and started the grass on fire. Well, now Alligator still didn't know anything about what Rabbit was doing. He was just waiting for trouble to show up so he could see what trouble was like. And he looked up, and there was kind of a reddish glow in the distance and a funny smell on the air. Now, living in the water, Alligator didn't know about fire and smoke that much, but he knew that this was something unusual, so he figured, maybe this is what trouble smells like. I'd better stick around and see. He didn't know just how close his wife and children were behind him, so he wasn't paying attention to them, but they were sneaking up close to find out what was going to happen. Well, the fire started growing, and it started getting closer because the wind was blowing it toward Alligator. Now, anybody with any sense would have figured, there's smoke and there's fire. Maybe I better go back in the water. But Alligator, he didn't know about those things. And so he waited until it got closer to see what trouble was like up close. It smelled real strong, and it was making noises too, crackling noises, as the fire was burning the grass. And it was a brighter reddish light now, red and orange and yellow. It looked kind of pretty too. Maybe this trouble was something you should only be scared of sometimes. But as the fire got closer, he began to feel how hot it was. And Alligator thought to himself, "Oh my, I don't think I want to stick around any closer than this." And he started running back to the river, and then he saw his wife and his children there. "Get back to the water! Get back to the water!" And they started all going back to the river. Well, Rabbit, he hadn't paid attention to who was there with Alligator, so he didn't know. But the fire caught up because Alligator didn't want to outrun his children. And so the fire caught up and burned Alligator and his wife and his children. Oh, not to death, but burned them so bad their scales got all blistery and hard. When they got back to the water and cooled off, Alligator was so mad Rabbit came down to the river and to see what was going on and said, "See, Alligator, that's what trouble was like." And Alligator said, "You burned me and my wife and children. I'm not going to forgive you for this. If that was trouble on land, you got trouble in the water now. I'm going to be your trouble. If you come near me again, I'm going to eat you." Well, Rabbit realized that maybe he'd gone too far with his little joke about teaching Alligator, and he tried to say that he was sorry, but Alligator wasn't having any of it. And so to this day, if Rabbit goes too near Alligator, Alligator's going to eat him. But also to this day, Alligator's scales are hard and ugly and look burnt, not smooth and shiny like a lizard. And that's because Alligator met trouble.